Hi guys, welcome back. Today we're going to answer the $1,000,000 question. How do you improve your handwriting? We're going to go through 4 golden tips in details on how do you improve your handwriting overnight. We're going to also do a few examples together to apply these rules to writings in everyday life. Stay tuned. There's so many questions about how do I improve my handwriting. So if you take a look at the example here, there are certain basic rules of consistency that you have to be able to follow before you can improve your handwriting. And today we're going to go through the 4 main types that you need to follow. Rule number 1, consistent height. When you're considering writing a word, it's important that you keep the height of the letter being consistent within the words. So the first example that we have is something with a high height. And then on the back side of this card, I've made an example of a wording that has a smaller height. Rule number 2, consistent width within each of the letters. So if we're keeping the height consistent, the rule is saying that when we do each letter, the width should be consistent within the same word. This is an example of a Y width. And then on the back side, here is an example of a letter or a words that consists of letters with very small width. So here you are, you can see that the width is a lot smaller. Rule number 3, consistent spacing between the letters. So notice that there's a big gap between A and B when I have high spacings. But on the back side, if we wanted to do a wording that have a less of a spacing, so you just make sure that the letters are closer together. The fourth rule has to do with the waistline of where the letters are. So the first example we're going to use is considering whatever the height is, we make the waistline closer to the bottom of the line. So you can see that the middle part is slightly towards the bottom. And they're also a high waistline or exactly in the middle. And the high waistline, you can see that is closer to the top of the line, but while the middle line, it's right in the middle and it's like kind of the regular ways that we usually write letters. Okay, so now we're going to do some examples and put all those together. So there are these 4 to pick from, right? And we can decide to do whatever combination that we have. Say for examples, I wanted to pick a really tall letter, height that is very wide, but then I wanted the width of the letter to be really small, and I want, say, the spacings to be bigger. And let's do a higher waistline. Okay, so the most helpful thing that you can do for yourself, I'm just going to lay them out at the side so you can kind of see our parameter that we're trying to draw. Okay, and this is the high waistline. We'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so I'm going to use a thinner pen just to be the grid line. Okay, so let's just use this light purple. Okay, so I'm just going to use light purple to be the grid line. When I'm deciding that the height to be tall, I am now going to decide that it's going to be about 5 boxes tall on the grid paper. Okay, so I want the height of it to be 5 boxes tall. Okay, and then the width, because I want it really, really small, I'm going to decide that the width of each of the letter is going to be 1 box wide. Okay, so that's the width that I'm going to decide it to be at. Okay, the spacing, I want it high because I want the spacing to be high. So I might do the spacing. Actually, I'm going to write this at the side here. So I want the height to be 4 boxes tall. I want the width to be half a boxes wide. The spacing to be 2 boxes wide. And then finally the waistline, because I wanted it to be high, I wanted it to be at like with 1 box at the top. Okay, so the waistline is 1 box below the high line. Okay, so let's draw my grid. And then we're going to do an example. So first of all, I'm going to draw my grid for the height of the 4. I'm using a lighter color. I'm just going to draw it all the way across. That's the... Okay, and I'm going to write 5 words with it. Okay, I'm going to say happy. Okay, happy is the word that I'm going to be using. So with the grid line, so the first letter is going to have to be half a box wide. So if you want to, you can just draw your half a box wide, like grid it off. Honestly, block it off for yourself. Sorry, because my marker is thick, I'm actually going to change the width to 1. Okay, so the width to be 1. Okay, and then I want 2 spaces in between each of the letter. So I'm just going to block them off like that. So 2 block away, and then another 1 block for each letter. See, I'm just blocking them off so I know exactly where I'm fitting my letter. Okay, so I got my 5 letter happy, and then I want my waistline to be 1 box below the highest line, the cup height. So this is my waistline. Waistline mean any letters that kind of have the middle part will have to end or start there. All right, so the word happy, ready? So I am going to now use a darker blue pen just to show you. I'm going to zoom into the paper better just so you can see it. I'm just going to take these guys out. We'll bring this back in later on. So this is the first kinds. Okay, so happy. So because of my grid line, I already know that I'm writing it tall and skinny. So I'm going to fit it within my grid, right? See how where the waistline is? See that A? The middle line is right at the top there. Okay, happy, P. Okay, and then the loop, I usually make it quite, like I almost make it like a straight line first and then loop it to the close, okay? And if you get used to it, you don't have to do the straight line. You already would incorporate it. So watch this P. So I would go out, do the curve, and come back straight. Right? That's just how I like to do my curve. Okay, and then the Y, because the cap height is like the waistline is in the middle, so I'm going to loop it like that. All right, there are some people who like to switch it up and say a letter A. Instead of making it a capital letter, you can switch it and add it into a curved line. So you want me to show you? Okay, so some people can actually change this A into a capital letter. I'm going to do it. Hopefully it shows up okay. But it can actually be like a straight line, but with an oval. Okay, I don't know how well you can see that. But you can change that to an A. Or like the letter Y. Sometimes people don't like to put the capital, like solid block letter. You can block it up and do the Y like this. That just adds interest, right? Some people like to mix it up with capital and lower cases. I don't think the P and the H, I guess you could. If you want to do a lowercase h, you can actually just do this and do the H, right? All right, let's do another example. Okay, so this is the new one. Okay, so I've decided to make a smaller height, a wider width, but a smaller spacing and low waistline this time. Okay, so I'm just going to leave these to the side and let's do our grid line. You will get to the point that when you know it enough, you don't have to actually do your grid line anymore. But just because we're starting off, I am still going to be doing it. So with that, so let's do this one now. Okay, I want my height to be not too high. So I'm going to say that the height is going to be 2 boxes high. Okay, the width of the letter, because we do want it wide. Okay, I don't know how well this will look, but let's just make it 3. Make it really exaggerated. Okay, the spacing I wanted low. Spacing let's do a spacing of, I don't know if half would be tight, but let's try that. If it doesn't work out, we'll make it wide. One, like you want it to be able to make it, but you still need it to fit with like the widthness of your pen and stuff like that. And this time our waistline is lower. So because it's my height is only at 2, so I'm going to say that it's going to be, say, half from the bottom. Okay, and we'll see how well that works. Okay, so let's draw a width. Let's draw a grid. So the height is 2 boxes high. And each of the width, I'm just gonna pick a lighter color just so that we can see it when we're done. Okay, because I need okay, I'm gonna start making the width like 3 boxes wide. So let's do the grid for 3 boxes. And then the spacing between them is half. We're going to be fairly precise. Okay, so watch this, right? So if it's half, right now the next letter starts here. So 1, 2, 3, right? I know there is a grid, but you also need to be careful that sometimes if you're off the grid, then you have to adjust it accordingly. Okay, and then half a box is over, which now fits it back into here. So 1, 2, 3, half, 1, 2, 3, half, 1, 2, 3, so on and so forth. I don't know. Haven't decided. What word do we want to write? All right, so I'm going to just quickly draw in the grid line. Using pencil is absolutely fine, right? I just thought that this would show up a bit better on the video, hopefully. Okay, so I just got my grid done now. So I'm going to write the word strong. I forgot my waistline. So waistline is half. So from the bottom, because I want to do a lower waistline, so from the bottom it's going to be half a grid. Okay, so I'm going to draw my grid line here. So that's my waistline. So I know that any wordings that is not ending in the middle will be lower down. Okay. All right, ready? Okay, so my letter S. So I'm going to write strong, S-T-R-O-N-G. So because the waistline is at the bottom, you actually have an interesting shape, which might not be the most interesting thing, but this is your S. Okay, the strong, the T, if it's a capital T, you can do it at the top here. If it's a lowercase t, you can start it off at the bottom. So I'm just going to do an uppercase T. All right, so watch the middle, right? The middle somewhere here. S-T, R. So a straight line down. Similar to the P, I would do it almost straight and then do the curve. I don't like to do the curve really skinny. I kind of always like to make it so that it's like almost right there. And before I do the loop, I almost want like a perfect semicircle. Okay, R, and then you can do the little leg. So I usually start off at the middle and then just go up to the side so that it fits kind of to the edge of the letter O. Letter N, I usually like to write 2 straight line down at the side. And then see how where it's like where the waistline is, that's where I would connect the top left to where the intersections of the waistline is. Okay, G, because this is a lower waistline, you know how like your letter G has like a horizontal, so I would make sure that my horizontal will end there. I'd almost make a perfect O with an oval thing, but I would bring it back up here and I would close it off. If it's a letter G with a high waistline, I would make the top one skinnier and bring it in at the top. Okay, and then so hopefully you find the variety of this actually helpful. The key thing is being consistent with your word. And I know we don't usually write like super tall or super wide. So to do regular handwriting, what I would suggest is still like think about, if you usually, when you're usually writing, the height of the word is about one box, a box and a bit high, right? So if you think about if you're writing on graph paper or line paper, you still want the consistent height and the consistent width, right? So if I were to print like ABC or something like that, usually on a graph paper, if I'm thinking about how I normally write with the regular print, I would probably do the height about 1.5, right? So, and then like you don't have to draw on the grid. Once you get comfortable and are more aware of like, okay, I'm gonna be careful, I'm gonna write all my letters kind of the same height, then you almost could be doing it without writing the grid line. So if I want it to be a regular width, I'm not even really counting. I want a middle waistline. I'm not really counting, but the key thing is a box and a half for the height, and the width it's a box and a bit. But I can visualize it and say like, okay, I want it approximately to be this high. So I'm gonna keep everything consistent to about the same height and the same width. And honestly, like when you're doing your regular writing, you're not gonna be able to like write out your grid line, right? So hopefully this kind of just give you an idea to be aware of when you're actually doing your regular printing. So no, I'm just honestly just making it very rough, but at the same time, just trying to keep it almost the same height. Like it's not perfect, but I think it looks pretty neat, right? Now's your turn to practice. Just be mindful that when you're writing that you are keeping a consistent height, width, space, as well as the waistline. You would be really surprised by how much your handwriting can be improved in a short period of time. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to press the like button, and also make sure you subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss any upcoming new tutorials that can help you improve your hand lettering. Have a good one.